I've just painted a Lamborghini colour on my Volkswagen Fox, but the car still needs a lot of work. So this is my Volkswagen Fox, and this is what it looked like when I bought it. My Fox was a run-of-the-mill commuter car that was perfectly good at taking you to do your shopping, but lacked any real excitement. So to transform this Fox, over the past couple of months, I've been modifying it to turn it into what I think a real Fox GTI would have looked like if Volkswagen had ever made one. We started by swapping out the Fox's underpowered 1.4 engine for a 1.8 litre turbo engine from a donor Polo GTI.
It's one GTI engine.
And after getting that engine installed into the Fox, it was very fast.
This car is ridiculously fast and very scary.
We then installed a load of Gti-Spec handling modifications like real GTI brakes and wheels, BC coilovers and a proper set of tyres to help the car manage this new power.
They work tremendously well.
And most recently, we've given the car a Viola Parsafe paint job, which is a real Lamborghini colour.
It's genuinely like the most gorgeous paint I have ever seen.
So in this video, the plan is to continue installing some crazy modifications to the car to turn it into even more of a GTI.
So there are a load of upgrades that I want to get on the Fox in this video, and there are quite a few parts that we just need to get back on the car to get it back together. But before we start with any of that, a lot of you guys mentioned in the previous video that the paint isn't an absolute perfect finish, and that's because we haven't given it a polish. So Lav's come over to help us out with that. Let's get started.
So to get the finish of the Fox's paint job looking better, Lav firstly went over the surfaces with 1500 grit sandpaper, a sanding block and some water. He then had to go over it with 3000 grit sandpaper, and then the final step was using the polish. And of course, he had to do this on all of the body panels on the car. And once Lav was done, the paint finish was looking a lot nicer.
So now the polish is done, we can move on to another thing a load of you said in the comment section of the previous video, and that's to do with how both the front and the rear bumpers have been painted. Now, we left the plastic unpainted on the front and rear bumpers, and a few of you mentioned that the car looks cheap because we haven't actually painted these bits in the colour. And after looking at it, I sort of completely agree. We just didn't think to do this when we painted the car. So what we're going to do is take the front and the rear bumpers down to 360 alloys on Bodyshop, and they're going to paint these like surround bits all in the purple, and then the grills themselves will go black. That's the plan. Let's go.
So I could go ahead and take the bumpers to 360 Alloys and Bodyshop. These guys are absolute wizards with wheel refurbishments and bodywork, so we will come back later on in the video to see what the bumpers look like.
So now that's done, we can move on to the main topic of today's video, and that is the interior on the Fox. Many of you who watched the Jazz project will know that we fit that car with a whole Type R interior, and I think it looked so cool. So we're going to do something similar with the Fox. A lot of you might know where I'm going with this. The Polo has a whole GTI interior in it. So we've got all sorts, like these seats which have this sort of GTI embroidery on there, which looks really cool. We've got this handbrake which has the red stitching on there to match. We can put that in as well. We've got the steering wheel which says GTI. You've got the red stitching on the inside. This looks really cool. We also have the seat belts which have a bit of red on them, which again looks cool, sets the GTI interior off. We also have the rear bench, which might be usable, might not sure if that's going to fit, but we will try it. So we've got loads of stuff in here which we can get in the Fox, or at least try to. But the first thing we need to do is take all of this out, so let's get started. Cool, that is one GTI handbrake. So this is our GTI seatbelt, and obviously you should always wear one of these when you are driving. Similarly, when you are online surfing the internet, you should always make sure to use NordVPN. A VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and basically when you're using one, you can stay safe and secure online. And that is one GTI seatbelt. Also, Let's say you're on a website which you think might be dodgy and there might be a risk of some malware being downloaded onto your devices. If you use NordVPN and have it activated, it will make sure that no malware gets on your devices and they're nice and safe.
On top of that, if there's a show that you really want to watch but it's only available in another country, for example the US, if you connect to NordVPN through that country, you will then be able to watch that show. Also, if you do end up doing this, NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world, which will make sure that your playback is nice and smooth and you don't have to wait for loading times.
So to make sure you're staying safe online, click the link in the description of this video, and if you do so, you will get 4 months completely for free on a 2-year NordVPN plan. So that's 2 years and 4 months for the price of 2 years, which is a good deal, so click that link. Now, there are some good things and some bad things to report with all of this stuff. So with the Polo rear bench, as you can see, it's sort of a 1, 2, 3, 4 piece rear bench, which is very different to our single piece rear bench out of the Fox. So they are very different, and unfortunately, we can't fit the Polo rear bench into the Fox. Another thing, both of the front seats out of the Polo will fit into the Fox, but we're going to need to do a bit of modification, and the driver's seat in particular is very worn down. This tartan just looks very faded, so that could do with being refreshed. So what are we going to do about these issues? Well, with the rear bench, we're going to fit the Fox bench back into the Fox, but before we do so, we're going to reupholster all of these center bits in that lovely GTI tartan. And with the front seats, we're going to reupholster all of the centers to get them looking nice as well. So fresh GTI tartan is going to go on the seats. So we will end up having the Polo front seats and the Fox rear bench in the Fox, all refurbished and refreshed.
Now, to get the seats reupholstered, I had to get them packed into the BMW and take them all the way up to Nottingham to Project 7 Customs. So whilst those seats are getting worked on, another job that I think really needs doing is these windows. I think they are absolutely crying out for some window tints, so the guys from D5 Graphics have come down to help us out. So tinting is a pretty intricate process where a piece of tinted film is applied to the inside of the window using a water-activated adhesive. Now, sometimes you will see tinters applying the film to the outside of the window, and this is to cut it into the right shape, and once that's done, the tint can be applied to the inside. And as for the level of tint I went for, I didn't want it too dark, so we went for a 50% tint just on the rear windows.
So there we have it. The tints on the Fox have now been finished, and I think they are looking so good. Now, obviously, we didn't go as dark as the tints on the Jazz because I wanted it to look sort of OEM and not too dark. I'm getting into my old age now, and I'm actually starting to like less dark tinted windows. But the guys at D5 Graphics did an amazing job, so big up to them. But now that is done, we can move on to stripping this interior out and getting a few little bits painted.
So something else I'm not the biggest fan of in the Fox's interior is how half of it is like this cream color. It's not very GTI, and I think it would be much better if all of this was painted in black. So to get that done, firstly, all of it has got to be removed. So after getting all of the cream-coloured interior pieces out of the Fox, it was then time to get them painted black. Also, just a quick reminder to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It massively helps out the channel and allows me to keep bringing you videos just like this. So once I was finished with painting all of the interior trim pieces, I could then move on to dyeing the headliner. And this is such a simple process. All I did was just spray the dye onto the headliner using a spray bottle.
Right, so our interior trim pieces are now painted and they are looking pretty good. Same goes with our headliner. That's ready to go in the car as well. But there is one more thing I want to get painted before we move on, and that is the plastics around the wing mirror, because obviously we're having our bumper painted in gloss black and purple, and to not have the plastics here painted in gloss black, I think would look weird. So let's get these painted too. So once I had taken off the wing mirrors, I could then focus on getting the plastic bits prepped for paint. I firstly used some water and a pad of Scotch-Brite to rub down all of these surfaces, and once I'd done so, I could then apply our primer layer. Followed by a couple of layers of gloss black. Once that was done, I then decided to do the exact same process again, but with the scuttle panel. Now at this point I couldn't get the scuttle panel fitted back onto the car because we hadn't yet installed the body loom and the wiper motor and everything that goes behind it, but I could get the wing mirrors back on. And I think this is a definite improvement from the old dull plastics. So now we've finished all the painting for the interior trim pieces, you might think we can just go ahead and get that all fitted into the interior, but we can't do it yet because we have this sound system to fit. Now, with a lot of the cars that I buy, because they're all quite bad from factory, the sound systems always need replacing because they're just terrible. So we have got a really good sound system here, about 400 quid's worth, 2 front subwoofers, 2 regular speakers for the rear, and then 2 tweeters as well, and some soundproofing and some sort of mounting collars as well. All of this stuff was supplied by John Kleis in Reading. They are my absolute go-tos for any audio stuff. So if you want to get a cool audio system, I'll leave a link to them in the description of this video. But yeah, this is going to completely transform that old rubbish speaker system in the Fox, so let's get this fitted. But before I can get the new sound system in, I've firstly got to reinstall the body loom. Now, I removed the body loom in the previous video so that we could properly paint the engine bay, so that's why it's currently not fitted. But because we are now fitting a new sound system which needs power from the battery to test if it works, we need to reinstall the body loom so that we can connect up the battery and give the car power. But whilst I was doing this, I thought I may as well get the whole engine bay back together. So that's stuff like the windscreen wiper motor, the scuttle panel, the coolant bottle, the washer bottle, and just little bits and bobs like that. Okay, so first things first, before we get our speakers in, we need to get this installed. This is a Bluetooth stereo, and this car currently doesn't have a stereo at all, so we have had no way of playing music through this car as of yet. So once we get this fitted, we can connect up our phone, verify that the current sound system does work, and then once that's done, we can get our new speakers fitted and hopefully have a sick sound system. So to get the stereo fitted and wired up correctly, I had to use an adapter harness which I bought from Halfords earlier and wire in the red wire from that adapter harness into the fuse box. Now, since the red wire controls when the stereo turns off and on, I had to wire it into a circuit in the fuse box that turns on when you switch on the ignition. Now, with any luck, that should turn on. Yes! Okay, so we can see that our new stereo does have power to it, but if we quickly test it, we can also hear the speakers work. Let's see how you do under pressure. So this is really good news. It means that we can now get our new upgraded speakers installed. So starting on the driver's door, I could firstly drill out the rivets that hold in the old speaker. Now, before getting the new speaker fitted, I'm just going to install some sound deadening, which will help increase the sound quality of the speakers. So now that's done, I can worry about connecting up the wires. Now, there are 2 wires that go into the speaker, the positive and the negative. So to get these wires connected to our new speaker, I firstly got to strip both of the wires and then crimp on some terminals. Once that's done, I can connect up the positive wire to the positive side of the speaker, the negative wire up to the negative side, and then I can get the speaker riveted into place. Once that was done, I could then do the exact same process again with the passenger door speaker.
Then I could move on to the 2 rear speakers. He's on. Magnifique. Ouch. That's good, doesn't it?
Side, just one more to go.
One more to go. So after getting the final big speaker on the other side fitted, I could then move on to the tweeters. So to get these new tweeters installed, I firstly had to remove the old tweeters from the A-pillar trim piece. I could then strip the 2 wires from the tweeter plug and the 2 wires from our new tweeter and crimp these wires together. Whilst doing this, I of course needed to make sure that I was crimping the positive to the positive and the negative to the negative. Once that was done, I could glue the new tweeter into place, and this is what that end result looked like. After all of that, I could then get the A-pillar trim piece installed whilst making sure to plug in the new tweeter. And after doing the exact same thing on the other side, we were then finally finished with installing this sound system.
So that is our sound system fully fitted into the Fox, and we've got 6 new speakers in here now, so this should be pretty good. That is so much better. That is loads better than the Jazz. That is really loud, which is really good. I'm very happy with that. Now we can finally get our interior in.
So to start getting the interior back together, I firstly tackled the boot. Now the boot was stripped from the paint job in the previous video and it needed to be built back up. So I had to reroute the boot wiring loom and then fit parts like the rear wiper, the boot lock, and the brake light, and also plug in the heated rear screen. This was a pretty time-consuming, fiddly job, but we did manage to get it done. The next parts to get in were the GTI seat belts, and whilst I thought they might be a straight fit, they actually weren't. We did have to do a bit of modification, which was fairly easy to get done, and that then allowed these belts to be bolted straight in. After I'd finished fitting all of the seat belts, I could then get all of our interior trim pieces fitted. After getting the headliner fitted, I could then get the passenger roof handle installed, alongside the sun visors and the roof light. And then I could fit the rest of the interior trims. And whilst doing this, I could also get in the door rubbers. And lastly, I could refit the passenger window glass, window rubber, and door card. Now, getting the window rubber in does require a bit of persistence, and I also used a bottle of soapy water to help sort of slide that window rubber into place. And after finishing up with that, the passenger door card could go on, and then the interior was looking a lot more complete.
Right, so that is now most of our interior fitted back in. We've got our door, passenger door, completely built back up with the glass in. We have our new GTI seat belts. These are really cool and they fit, and I'm really glad they fit. We've got our black headliner, our black sort of side trim pieces, our sun visors, the light's been painted black as well. Everything's in, is looking really, really cool. But now we can move on to getting all of our new GTI parts fitted. So doesn't all of this stuff just look really, really cool? I am so pleased with this. We've got our front seats, which have been completely refreshed. They're looking really cool. And our Fox rear bench with the new tartan on it. Now, this material is from the Mark 7 Golf GTI, I believe, and it is much more vibrant and it has completely transformed these interior pieces. And we also have our little gear gator as well with the same material on it. So I am really, really pleased with all of this, and it's ready to go in the car, so let's get it fitted.
So getting these interior bits in is actually the easy part. It doesn't take too long at all. I started off with installing the center console, which is only held in with 2 screws, and then the gator just sort of clips into place. I then moved on to fitting the GTI handbrake, which is held in with 2 nuts, and I also had to tighten up the handbrake cables with a 10mm spanner. And I could also get the steering wheel in. And as for getting in the rear bench, I've just got to maneuver it into place and then tighten up these 4 13mm nuts. And then finally, I could install both of the front seats, which like every other car, just has 4 bolts holding them in.
Right, so that is our GTI interior fully fitted into the Fox, and just take a look at how good it looks. I am so pleased with this. We've got our steering wheel, which admittedly probably needs a bit of a refurbish, but it still looks a lot better than what was in here before. We've got our gear gator, which now matches the GTI tartan on the seats, which looks really cool. We've fully got this door back together. Our sound system's in, our GTI handbrake is in, and that's looking great as well. And we've also got our GTI seat belts, which are really cool. And everything now matches the rear, which has, again, the matching seats, the matching seat belts, and all of the black headline and the black trim pieces. All of that is looking great as well. Now, we have not done anything about this door because we tried to fit a window regulator earlier, which didn't fit. The right one has now arrived, so we need to get this door completely built back up. But once that's done, we can take a look at the bumpers that we dropped off at 360 Alloys earlier in the video, and trust me, they look amazing. So let's get this done and then take a look at those bumpers.
So a lot of you might remember in the previous video that we found a plank of wood holding up the driver's window, and the reason why the previous owner decided to do this was because the driver's window regulator was broken. So to allow us to have a fully functioning driver's window, the regulator needs to be replaced with a new one. And doing this is pretty simple. The new regulator just needs 3 rivets to install it. Once that's done, I can get the driver's window in, test to see if it all works, and then get the inner window rubber installed alongside the door card.
So that's our door fully built up and back together. Now that it's done, I can show you our bumpers that have come back from 360. So I am gonna have to humbly accept that all of the people who told me to do this were 100% right, and I was wrong for not doing this to start off with. But just take a look at how much better that front bumper is looking than it used to look. It's got the black grills now and the sort of colour matched bottom piece, which looks so good. The finish on that is amazing as well. And we also have our rear bumper, which has also been colour matched with the Viola Parsifal. We've got, that used to be obviously that plastic, and that's now purple, which looks really, really good. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you to 360 Alloys for getting that done. They look absolutely amazing, and if any of you guys need wheel refurbishments or bodywork done to your car, make sure to give them a call. I'll leave all of their contact information in the description of this video, but for now, let's get these on.
So getting these bumpers back on the car just felt so good because they look so much better now, thanks to 360 Alloys. And with these bumpers, the car definitely looks even more GTI spec. And also, to add the cherry on the cake, I had to get on some final finishing touches, which included some new badges, and of course, some new number plates.
There ain't no satisfaction for me now. There ain't no satisfaction for me now. There ain't no satisfaction for me now. Now that you're gone, now that you're gone, now that you're gone.
Well, I have to say, the Fox GTI is looking magnificent. I think the car is really coming together. The front bumper is definitely one of the main things that has made this car look loads better. You were all right in the comment section. This needed to happen and it looks so good. Obviously, our interior, the main topic of today's video, looks so good. I am really pleased with how that all turned out. It is looking 10 out of 10. And the back of the car is also looking really cool. Obviously, we've got our badges, our number plate, and our little GTI badge, which I know a lot of you might hate, but I think the car has earned that badge. We've got the GTI interior, we've got the wheels, the brakes, the engine, we've got everything on the car, and I think it is truly a Fox GTI now. Now, obviously, there is one thing which we have not put back in the car, and that is, of course, our engine. The car is a lot lighter as well on this front, so it's there's a bit more of a wheel arch gap than there would be, so it doesn't look quite as good. But the next video is going to be us putting the engine back in, and not only putting the engine in, but putting a load of upgrades on the engine to make it a heck of a lot faster. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that, like this video, and I'll catch you then.